RETATRUTIDE versus tirzepatide, the new Godzilla of GLP-1 medication. Taken from my son, taken from my son's toy bin. Let's go ahead and dive in. Oh my gosh, make it stop. The new RETATRUTIDE, and this is the information, some of it has been out, but I am so jazzed because I know so many of you are on different GLP-1 medications, and with the clinical trial information coming out, clinical trial 2, phase 2 of RETATRUTIDE versus Mounjaro and ZEPBOUND, that's his little head popped off. So we're going to be talking about the different GLP-1 medications versus semaglutide, which is Ozempic, and Wegovy. We're going to be comparing all three of these different GLP-1 medication and what's in the pipeline. I know so many of you are so frustrated with the Mounjaro shortage, with the ZEPBOUND shortage, and I'm right there with you. I am Elizabeth, if we don't know each other. I'm the Countess of shopping. I've been on GLP-1 medication for over 16 months. I'm having lost over 88 pounds on my 100-pound weight loss journey. My life has completely changed as a result of GLP-1 medications, and I love sharing and encouraging here on this channel about GLP-1 medication and how we can all improve our lives. So let's go ahead and dive in with this information. As always, I require of myself to be factually accurate and scientific with citing my sources. I'm not a healthcare provider. Always talk to your own healthcare provider. Simply my experience, strength, and hope. So let's dive into about RETATRUTIDE. Many of you have heard of it. There's details coming out now more that I wanted to go through personally and dive in and learn more about this Godzilla, as what the media is coining it, versus ZEPBOUND and Mounjaro. And ZEPBOUND and Mounjaro changed my life, honey. So I'm like, how much better could this medication get? Well, it actually is getting much better in terms of the clinical trial findings of RETATRUTIDE. So it's not going to be, if it still has to go through clinical phase trial 3, and it could be 2 to 3 years. I'm seeing different timelines on that, of potentially, if it goes through all of these clinical trials and all of the rigmarole with the FDA approval, it could be up to 3 years to being on the marketplace. I had previously said 2. I'm now seeing in different sources potentially 3. So keeping that in mind, this is huge hope for people who, like myself, who are on the highest dose of Mounjaro. I was on Mounjaro because of the shortage, ZEPBOUND because of the ZEPBOUND shortage. I'm now on a compound, which I'd rather be on the brand names, but being on the highest dose, there's nowhere else for me to go. And my appetite suppression for me personally has changed quite a bit while my life has changed, and I've really gotten to work on my eating habits and physical activity. I would love to have a higher dose of ZEPBOUND and Mounjaro. Like, is there a 17.5 milligram or a 20 milligram? There's not. It goes up to 15 milligrams is the highest dose. So hearing about RETATRUTIDE, about how well it's doing, check this out. In 24 weeks, RETATRUTIDE met the primary endpoint of efficacy estimated with participants living with obesity or overweight without diabetes. So this is the thing for folks who have without diabetes, demonstrating a mean reduction of clutch of pearls. Are you ready for this? 17.5% or 41.2 pounds. And a secondary endpoint, RETATRUTIDE demonstrated a weight reduction of 24.2% or 57.8 pounds. Can you just imagine, almost 58 pounds at the end of a 48-week treatment duration? So at the end of 11 months, folks lost, on average, 24.2% or 57.8 pounds. Like, my mind is blown. That is crazy beans. At the 24-week interval, the RETATRUTIDE, the doses were 1 milligram, 4 milligrams, 8 milligrams, and 12 milligrams. And so they had lost 17.5%. Now let's compare that. That was RETATRUTIDE. That's still in clinical trials, not on the marketplace yet. If it goes through all these things, maybe on the marketplace in 2 or 3 years, versus Mounjaro. He just lost his head. Oh my God. Pieces are just flying. This is supposed to represent Mounjaro and ZEPBOUND. So in terms of the results with Mounjaro versus ZEPBOUND, let me pull those facts up. So we have Ozempic and Wegovy, which are semaglutide. When I talk about Ozempic and Mounjaro versus ZEPBOUND, One is FDA approved for type 2 diabetes. One is FDA approved for chronic obesity management because obesity is a disease. So with this 15%, so the retatrutide compares to 15% of Ozempic for weight loss and 22.5% for Mounjaro and ZEPBOUND over a longer period versus, what did we just say that percentage was? Let me go back over to my notes. I mean, 24.2%. So we've got 24 versus 22.5%, but in a shorter time frame. This was only 11 months, 48 weeks versus, I'm pretty sure off the top of my head, I'm gonna link it down below my sources so you guys can fact and double check me. But for Mounjaro and ZEPBOUND, it's like 70 something weeks. So 70 something weeks versus 48 weeks losing, I mean, like that's crazy. In 11 months to lose 57.8 pounds, the percentage was 24.2%. Like, that is mind blowing to me. Now, let's talk a little bit about side effects because y'all know that was my next question. I'm like, how much blowout diarrhea did these folks have who were in the clinical trials? There was 300, I'll go back to that. It was over 300 people in the clinical trial. These folks had generally, in terms of their side effects, they had the normal gastrointestinal, which we know is pretty standard. It has in there nausea, diarrhea, vomiting, constipation, but added was skin sensitivity, which I know in my free weight loss group, I've got thousands of incredible, amazing, high-tier, fabulous folks who are on GLP-1 medication in my free encouragement group. I'll link it down in the description link below, along with all of my resources. People have talked about skin sensitivity, more so, like, it blows my mind. I've not had that. I've not had that being on Mounjaro and then switching to ZEPBOUND because of the shortages, and now being on a compound because of the shortages. I'd rather be on a brand name. The skin sensitivity I thought was interesting for the retatrutide in it. So overall, the phase 2 trial results showed that resulted in more weight loss at a faster rate than the similar drugs. So if you're comparing that to tirzepatide and ZEPBOUND, it's faster. Ozempic was 15% of their body weight in 68 weeks. Mounjaro, the tirzepatide, was 26.6 over 72 weeks. So see, there's where I said 72 weeks, whereas retatrutide was in 48 weeks. So comparing 72 weeks versus 48 weeks. So folks who are on Mounjaro, excuse the missing head dinosaur, if you're on Mounjaro, if you're on ZEPBOUND, or if you're on Wegovy or Ozempic, and you are a slower responder, you're a hypo responder, meaning you're not losing a bunch of weight and you're getting frustrated and you're like, oh my gosh, what's wrong with me? Nothing's wrong with you, by the way. You're amazing, fabulous, fearfully, wonderfully made. It's simply the science is catching up to having GLP-1 medications. Now, this is the difference in there that I think is so important to talk about. Let me pull up my next source. Is obesity is expected to affect nearly a quarter of the world's population by 2035. A quarter. I mean, that's crazy, by the way. Retatrutide, an investigational GIP, GLP-1, and GCG receptor agonist, holds promise. It has in there basically three, and I'm going to butcher this and I don't want to butcher it. It's basically, here, I'm not going to butcher it. It's triple hormone receptor agonist retatrutide. Mounjaro and ZEPBOUND have two, it's the double hormone, or it's got two of the hormone receptor agonists. And this, Wegovy and Ozempic, semaglutide, has one. So going through, if you are a hypo responder, a slower responder, maybe you're on Mounjaro or ZEPBOUND and you're like me and I'm like, ugh, I'm not a hypo responder, but I'm at this, I've been on for 16 months and I am fighting hardcore to get to a 100-pound weight loss because my BMI is still technically has me in, I think I'm still technically in the obese category. I don't even think I'm in the overweight category, which is crazy, but I digress. BMI is kind of jacked up, that body mass, that's a subject for another day. It's interesting and gives me hope being on Mounjaro and ZEPBOUND that yes, there's more scientific research coming down the pipeline to help us for chronic obesity management and type 2 diabetes. However, this is not for, retatrutide is not for type 2 diabetes. They're doing it for folks who, it said in the study, without, it was obesity folks and overweight folks without diabetes. it goes through and it talks about, okay, this was from Eli Lilly Investors link. Again, I'm linking all of my sources below so you can fact check and double check me because I do require to be right, factually accurate. Gastrointestinal side effects were the most commonly reported on there, from mild to moderate, which I found was interesting. I was like, oh, so they're not having like blowout diarrhea or like massive constipation or one way or the other. They're not having massive, no, it's mild to moderate in severity and usually occurred with the dose escalation during the dose escalation period, meaning they were going for the retatrutide, they were going for 1 milligram to 4 milligrams to 8 milligrams to 12 milligrams. So they saw like how we see in Mounjaro, and I've talked about this so much. If you're brand new to taking Mounjaro GLP-1 medications, I've got 200 plus videos here of my 16-month journey of me going through each dose. I look a lot different. I look a lot different than I do now. But going through those different doses with that, when you hit that highest dose, I'll say, let me use my I statements. When I've hit that highest dose, I felt somewhat depressed of like, I'm at the ceiling. There's nowhere else for me to go. I've got to figure out how to make this work. And I have so much hope. Yes, it may be 2 or 3 years more so looking like, based on the articles that I've been reading, 3 years. But man, oh man, that's incredible. That's incredible. And so as we go through these shortages, I want to remind you to stay centered in a place of abundance, gratitude. Thank goodness we live at this time to be alive. I think of my grandmother who had chronic obesity management and ended up having her leg amputated off as a result of complications with her health that can stem back, in my humble opinion, to chronic obesity management. I have an opportunity to completely change my life as a result of these medications, taking a once-a-week injection. How grateful am I? So I will take the shortages, I will take all of these things, and twice on Sunday because I am so massively grateful. What a great time to be alive. I mean, this information, if you're not feeling uplifted, honey, I don't know. I don't know what else. Do you want me to pull out a puppy? Let me go over to some next information on here too that I thought was interesting. Treatment for retatrutide was associated with cardiometabolic measures for blood pressure, triglycerides, LDL cholesterol, total cholesterol, HbA1c, and fasting glucose and insulin at weeks 24 and 48. So at the 6-month mark and then at the 11-month. Is my math wrong on that? Oh, you guys are going to come for me. You're going to be like, Elizabeth, you divided that wrong. Oh, did I divide it wrong? I was saying 11 months. Hold on, let me get my calculator. It's actually, well, in a year there's 52 weeks, and so it's saying it's 48 weeks. And so I was trying to divide it out based on months. Now I sound like a ding-dong. I retract that, but I'm not going to redo this video for my ding-dongness. It was basically 24 weeks, which is 6 months, and then 48 weeks. We got the math right. We got the math right. Okay, let's keep going. Let's keep going. This was what was the other fascinating part to me for the ladies out there. All the ladies out there, all the ladies out there. Usually ladies lose weight less than men, which was so annoying. So annoying. Well, ladies, I've got some great information for you. Ladies actually beat men in this trial. That got me really excited. Let me go over here where it talks about the women, the ladies. I want to pull up the ladies' information. There was a whole thing about how women actually did better than men on this trial. Here it is. Women lost even more, shedding 28.5% of their body weight compared to 21.2% in the males at the halfway trial mark. So at that, what did we just say that was? The 24-week mark. Isn't that amazing? So women were doing 28.5% of their shedding more than 28.5% of their body weight compared to men who shed their 21.2% of their body weight. Woo! That's great news, y'all. Okay, let's go back over. I want to go share. I'm pulling up my notes. I want to go back over and share. Okay, there was, let's see here. A Yale Obesity Research Center said the results are striking, and I would agree. I mean, that's really amazing. So there's still more work to be done on this. We've got years before this actually comes to the marketplace, but it's talking through about these different phases and trials. And again, as somebody who is not a medical person, this is me kind of combing through the research. There was 300, this is what I wanted to tell you, 324 adults with obesity and 14 adults with high body mass index. You guys know I always like to talk about sample size. My James Madison University here in Virginia, go Duke Dogs, is coming into play for my statistics class of making sure you have a valid sample size, which for my statistics class, it said 600 people was a valid sample size, or like a good sample size. So it's interesting to me that there's air quote only 324 adults. I'm sure people who are in the medical community know more about why that is versus my understanding of that, but I did think that that was interesting component on there. Because of promising findings, researchers, this is from Health News, because of promising findings, research will conduct phase 3 trial to assess the safety and efficacy of retatrutide in people with obesity, and results expected in 2026. And because the results are expected then, to my understanding, it doesn't mean that it would get released from the FDA by then. Like, it's still got to go through the FDA approval process. So this is just amazing, fantastic news. Like 48 weeks versus the 72, and it's from Eli Lilly, which you guys know my heart goes pitter patter over Eli Lilly. Eli Lilly, love y'all. I'm on a compound. I don't want to be on a compound. I want to be buying directly your Mounjaro or your ZEPBOUND. I don't want to be on a compound. I want to be on your medication, but this is also interesting to me. This is, okay, so I wanted to give scientific information, and then I wanted to give kind of like my theories and thoughts on them. Feel free to take or leave of that. You know that you know that you know. I have no idea. This is my guess. I have no factual basis for this, but you gotta go that, over at Eli Lilly, they're talking about like, okay, how do we make sure that there's not these shortages and things like that that we're experiencing right now, which is why they have that new North Carolina plant to help with production, to help with the shortage. But we know because of the Eli Lilly investor call, the Q1 2024 investor call that just happened, Eli Lilly did say that we're gonna have shortage going into 2025, which as of filming right now is near the end of May. That's still, if you go from May to into 2025, at least 8 months from now. So fascinating, interesting information. If you are currently on a GLP-1 medication, I get asked so much of what has helped me on my weight loss, my 88-pound weight loss journey. One, I have a ton of free resources for you. Like, you don't need to buy anything if you don't want to. For me, I do have certain things that I like to use and utilize. But the first one I bought with my own money for you was a meal plan. I bought it from a dietitian. She has her master's degree in nutrition. I bought it so I would own the licensing rights so I could give it to the Countess of shopping community totally for free. If you've already downloaded this, go back and you can get it. It's on countessofshopping.com, my website for all things Mounjaro, GLP-1 related, ZEPBOUND, Wegovy, and whatever else, retatrutide apparently. It's free. It's a week-long meal plan. It was dietitian created. It's got the shopping list on there, and then it also has with it protein recipes. I did not create that. I bought it from a dietitian who's brilliant. She's a GLP-1 specific dietitian too. So that is my free resource for you. In addition, I've got a free group. The encouragement group for me has been so fantastic. If you've not gotten into that group, you've applied to be into it, because you do have to fill out questions to prevent spammers. Like that group is also my encouragement group. So I protect it. And so if you haven't answered the questions, or if you've been in the queue to get in, just shoot me an email. You may have gotten caught as looking like spam, but you're not. Like if your Facebook account is less than 5 years, you probably got flagged as spam. If you didn't answer the questions, that frequently happens. People are like, oh, I don't need to answer the questions. I'm like, yes, you do. No one jumps the line. Sorry. We had a major executive for something, and I'm like, she filled out all the questions. I'm like, yes, no one's jumping the line here. Everyone's filling out the same thing. It is a fabulous group though. And I love it because people can be brutally honest. You can cry in that group. You can be uplifted in that group. You can get major encouragement. You can get factually based scientific information, because if you post something, I do need to see sources with it as well to make sure that we're all staying factually accurate, scientifically accurate, and not having misinformation. That to me makes me nuts. So those are free resources. People do ask me often, what are some of my other resources I use? I am absolutely obsessed for my protein shakes with Biocare. They're made intentionally for people on semaglutide or tirzepatide. or I guess retatrutide eventually when it comes out, but it helps with side effects and with muscle mass loss because it's a protein shake. They've given us a discount code. I do negotiate for the Countess of Shopping Community's discounts for you guys. LMNT has given us very graciously, you can get free samples of the drink mixes with any purchase that is a drink mix, not with their sparkling electrolytes though. Oh my gosh, I'm obsessed. I wasn't gifted. I bought literally, I don't know, there's like 5 boxes in my foyer. I'm like, if they sell out, I'm like, I was like, if they sell, I'm not gonna have it be sold out and not have them. So anyways, highly recommend those. And then also my magnesium breakthrough and sleep breakthrough. I switched over, you can use my discount code in the description link below, because it has 7 types of magnesium. Game changer for sleep, hormonal stuff. My period got jacked with taking a GLP-1 medication, which I've talked about in other videos. You can see in my playlist. And so I knew my hormones were changing, but having a magnesium with 7 types of magnesium has helped with hormones, sleep, and also muscle recovery, because I do work out, which is crazy, by the way. I just got back from a 2-mile walk before this video. Like, who dis? Like, literally, my life before GLP-1 medications, it's like, well, I'm going to die early. And like, that's basically, like, I had kind of accepted that was, no matter what I did, I wasn't going to change my life. That was like accepting, like, okay, this is where my life is. And now to have such hope and vim and vigor, and to be the best wife and mom and business owner. And that was the crazy part. I think I've talked about this before with GLP-1 medications, is been so successful in so many areas of my life, except for the juggernaut of chronic obesity management. Would lose the weight, would gain it back. I mean, I had a whole channel previous to this on keto and low carb, and it was humiliating and embarrassing. I gained back all of that weight. I lost over 80 pounds and gained it all back. It was mortifying. And that's not even, I don't even know, like, I wanted to leap out of my skin. I'm like, are you kidding me? Felt like the biggest loser. And now to have my life back, because now knowing the science behind chronic obesity management treatment and changing my blood panels dramatically, that I have a GLP-1 hormone deficiency. It's a hormonal thing. And a little once a week shot has changed my life. So much so that I've talked about this in other videos, that we've changing our finances of, I mean, we always did retirement, but now like heavily looking into our retirement accounts, I'm like, I'm going to live a lot longer than I thought. I need to get on. I mean, literally, like, my husband and I have been talking about that for months now, about our financial game plan for retirement, because I thought I was going to die early. Like, now I think I'm going to live a long time, at least God willing. So anyways, all of that to say, my life has dramatically changed. That's why I'm saying that. So if you're looking for a support group that's free, my group is amazing. Get the free meal plan linked down in the description link below. And if you're starting your journey and you want what I call them hacks of, like, jumping the line essentially, of things to help if you're traveling with Mounjaro. How do you do that? I got an Amazon shopping list. It's easy. All of my like favorite water tumblers and all of my favorite stuff. I do get all of my supplements directly from vendors. I do not buy that on Amazon. I buy everything else. And so that list is very comprehensive of, like, these are a few of my favorite things. Dresses, new bras, like literally I go through and I test and buy them with my own money to test for you guys, to tell you what's the best. The best chopper for your vegetables, because I'm not eating these huge honker bites anymore. And so having smaller bites because my plates are smaller, things like that. Like, my doctor would not tell me that I like smaller bites because I'm eating smaller portions. So therefore I want to cut my food smaller because my portion plates are smaller, like stuff like that. My doctor and my healthcare provider did not tell me. They did not know. They did not tell me, but I do know because now it's been 16 months. Sweet friends, question of the day today is going to be, what are you doing today to move you closer to your health goals? I always love, that's my accountability question. I love seeing when people answer that. It always gets me super excited. 2, our emoji for today is going to be a dinosaur. If you've made it this far in the video, you probably like this content, so make sure you click that like and subscribe button. But also it helps me to get to know you better. And if you've watched this far, I want to get to know you better because I truly do care about you and am cheering you on with your successes and your journey. And that we get to kind of do this journey together is so exciting and motivating and encouraging. And I also will pray over you or uplift you in positive thoughts. If you put the little dinosaur, it's kind of like our bat signal. Woo! It's the bat signal up for positivity. Be kind to yourself, be kind to others. I'm Countess of Shopping. Count my blessings because life is delicious. Have a fabulous day. I'll see you guys tomorrow.